Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. I'm John Types, as I was joined by Colin Fossil.
Look, glad to be here today.
And today we're talking about some Pokemon cards, of course, because that's what we always talk about, but we're talking about some of our favorite cards that aren't necessarily super good and are interesting cards, though, and I believe they're on standard. I realized when I said this to you, I didn't say they had to be standard. I assume yours are?
Yes, yeah, restricted to standard. Yeah, if you go to expanded, it just changes it so much, right? Not that
Yeah.
there aren't fun things for expanded, but it's just it's completely different.
Yeah, I actually got, in some ways, inspired by this idea. So I mentioned to you the term pet cards. Have you heard that term for cards before?
Um, I don't know if I've heard it in for trading cards per se, but obviously being teacher's pet and stuff's a common expression.
And I've heard it in the Magic the Gathering community some. I don't really play it much, but for the Commander format, which is more casual and different things, just cards that people enjoy. This is what we're taking a look at today. And also, in some ways, we'd probably like your help with this as well, because if you play with these cards and you found a cool use for them, then we'd love to see that. Because as I said, they are not super good. Some of these are probably super bad. I don't know. But do you want to just hop into it? And do you want to go first, or should I go first?
Well, why don't you go first? I think when we were talking through briefly before, I have basically Pokemon. You said you have mostly trainers, so that makes it
Oh,
interesting too.
no, I lied. I think I told you. I was like, I thought
Okay.
I wanted to do mostly trainers, and then I realized like, yeah, no, I don't have mostly trainers. I recently made a video kind of talking about some underrated trainers, but most of them aren't super interesting. Like Night Stretcher, I'd say is underrated, but that's pretty good. Then we got though the first
Yeah.
card here, which is a card from Perfect Order. This was originally a promo in Japan, of which most of them are bad. So this card is no exception. It is Hole Digging Shovel. This card I have not played. I'm not gonna lie. I was looking at this and I was like, wow, this card is not good, but it's interesting. I just mentioned Night Stretcher, and there are lots of things to interact with the discard pile. But Hole Digging Shovel is an item that discards the top two cards of your deck. Um, Uncover Fossil, what are your thoughts on this card?
Yeah. Well, first off, when I was going through some of the cards, I looked at a couple different things. And one of it was look at some of the newer cards, which is interesting. And this one did catch my eye. I didn't put it down because it's just what to do with it. But discarding is always interesting. It's an item, so you can play, get a bunch of cards in the discard pile. You like Sarah Ledge, so I guess you're just going to go with that with it. But that's kind of boring, something like that. But we do have the Cyphermatics code breaking, so you can manipulate the top cards to what you get in the discard. Of course, then you've burned your supporter, so that probably is pretty rough to do. But generally, discarding just random cards isn't usually going to get there. So, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to make it work? We can manipulate the top card in deck, right? So that you're probably doing that to control one of the cards. But yeah, it's a fun little card. Obviously, the question is, what are you going to do with it to make it useful?
Yeah, and even if you are manipulating like the top card of your deck, or multiple cards, and even if you could do it pretty easily, like I don't know, exactly are you trying to discard? That's good. Battle
Yeah,
Compressor and Expanded is really good. Um,
right.
this is obviously a lot worse. This is two cards that are essentially random. Battle Compressor is more cards, potentially. It can be less as well. It's more versatile, than that. And then you obviously choose the exact cards. And Battle Compressor is very
Yeah.
good, arguably broken, but even like if Palcrest was in standard, I don't know exactly what it would be played in. I can think of it, I guess, with Night Stretcher being potentially good. People like to thin it, that can be useful, but this doesn't really do those things. So I'm trying to think. I mean, you mentioned Sarah Ledge, which this could do something for. I looked at Limitless here. I'm on Limitless actually right now, and one versus Blade and Sarah Ledge in a City League tournament in Japan. Yeah, that's it. That's the only play there. You're looking at something like, I don't know, like United Wings, which is in stand. Oh, okay.
Right.
United Wings is technically in standard, but then there's something like that. But even then, I don't know exactly how good it would be. I feel like it's very weak, and like the upside just isn't very interesting. It's a little interesting though. It's definitely a unique card here.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about uses, my initial thing goes back to Mad Party because that was a deck obviously that wants cards in the discard pile to work, and that was around kind of when we were starting to play more seriously. As one of those kind of fun single prize fringe top 10 decks, I would say. But even then, in a deck like that, and you said United Wings is the more recent version of it. It's not huge. It doesn't like make the deck all wouldn't make it broken all of a sudden either. So even there it has some value, but it's limited. So yeah, I don't know of a I don't have a good place honestly to use this card.
Yeah, I feel like if there's some way to, I mean, I mentioned Night Stretcher getting cards back, and so that means that if you have Night Stretcher holding Shovel can be a bit of like a draw two, kind of. Like if you really, really squint, if we also had something like a Versus Seeker, uh, I mean, like, I talked about Battle Compressor. This is so much worse. I mean, like, it's not really, like, honestly, comparing the two is kind of silly. Um, I don't know. This card definitely, I feel like there's almost something really interesting in the discard. I've been playing Explorer's Guidance as well as Supporter recently. I was kind of considering including it in this video, but I decided not to. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird card here, and fun to see weird cards as well. I don't think I think this is probably the worst of the cards we're going to be talking about. It is pretty bad, but yeah, I think we could probably move on as well. There's probably not much
Yeah.
more to talk about with this card.
No. Well, the other thing I could think of for something that I had played, like I played Blissey V in the past, so whereas you accelerate energies, and if you had a way to get, the certain special energies you wanted in the discard pile, it would help with that. There's not something today, I don't think, that wants that. And even back then, it is a little sketchy. So yeah. So anyway, good choice. Not a terrible card. Well, it probably is a terrible card, honestly. So, but if hopefully somebody out there has a good idea. All right, so I'm going to throw something out there, and I'm going to say I'm going to go with Whimsicott EX, which you forgot what it did when I mentioned it.
Yes.
So, because we don't want things too good. First off, it's a stage one. It's got free retreat, so we know it's good for that. 230 HP, so that's not bad for for where it's at. I guess maybe it is. I guess, but anyway, it's got two attacks, one energy gift, which isn't what it's here for, but this is your favorite kind of attack. You search your deck for three basic energies, attach them to your Pokemon any way you like, shuffle your deck. So setting up with certain energy with a stage two with a two price Pokemon, not good there. But for one energy, Wondrous Cotton does 50 damage per trainer that your opponent has in hand. So, and people usually have a decent amount of trainers. So it's not a bad attack there, I would say, right? Is my thought. So I was kind of messing around with that as a deck. There is the other Whimsicott that goes in the deck, the single prize Whimsicott, that when you play that from your hand, you can heal all damage from your active grass at Pokemon, and you discard all energy there. It's a single energy attacker, so hopefully, you get a turn where you're not knocked out. Boom, you heal it up, and you're good to go again. So that, kind of a way to go. And I had a little bit of thought with it. What are your thoughts about on the Pokemon to start off with, though?
I'd say, well, first of all, with the single prize Scott, that's interesting. I also kind of forgot about this card. It's definitely a somewhat interesting one, but when Scott, you actually were saying its HP is not particularly high. It is
Yeah.
like particularly low. I mean, we're kind of talking, and you're like, yeah, it's okay. I feel like we've kind of lowered the bar of these cards, especially
No.
starting with Whole Digging Shovel. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting with its parallels to Mega Frostlass EX. Frostlass EX, of course, is a Mega though. It is a three prizer there. And a good card. Ultimately, even if some of these cards are going to be like a bit worse than good cards, that's fine. Whimsicott EX, though, I would say is like with Wondrous Cotton. If it depends how many trainers you get. If their hand's mostly trainers, this is, I mean, if their hand's all trainers is as powerful as Mega Frostlass EX. It does have less HP by a bunch, but then it gives up one less prize. I would say those two kind of balance out. I would say then you just kind of compare the attacks, which obviously this attack is going to be worse here. Your opponent obviously has control over it. You don't know how much you're going to be doing going in, unlike with Mega Frostlass.
Right.
Um, I guess I will mention what I've been doing some with Mega Frostlass, and I've seen people do this a little, is with like Dusknoir, things to knock yourself out. And then doing this, you give more cards to your opponent's hand, and then that increases the amount of damage that you can do there, which is like kind of funny. it's not super good. It's also again inconsistent here because you don't know if they're gonna hit um trainers or not. I will say, I guess one upside over Mega Frost SEX would be the fact that you do see their hand, which is like kind of cool. I guess. Also, Energy Gift
Yeah,
is
no,
like,
it's good
yeah,
to see the hand.
yeah.
But go
It'll
on.
probably be pretty different by the time it gets back to you, right? It's at the end or at the beginning of their turn before they even draw their top deck. And
Right.
Energy Gift is, I mean, I don't really like this style of attacks, and you don't think it's very good either. But I feel like in order to play this card, you'd ideally like to get value out of both. I mean, I've been comparing this a lot to Mega Frostlass. Mega Frostlass's other attack is so bad. This first attack is okay. Not really sure how you want to use this. Obviously, it's kind of slow. It is also grassier, obviously. You can use it with Force Vitality. I can't really think of how that would be useful. I mean, I suppose it's good if you want to attack with this and then you get like knocked out, but it's not like amazingly powerful. But I don't know. I feel like if you can get value out of both Energy Gift, accelerating 3 energy, which is like okay. It's okay if you can like somehow like if your opponent's not really doing anything. It's well, I guess most things are good in that situation, but if your opponent's like doing a slower setup based stack, then it's fine. Um, so I don't know, definitely an interesting card here. Not like the most interesting, but somewhat interesting with two decent attacks.
Yeah, I mean, because I decided I had time before the podcast to put together a list for it. So it's three of the EXs, one of of the single prize, and then I put the psychic basic in, which is a promo, but it's got collect where you draw a card, which I think was better than like the 10 or 20 that the other ones did. So, which means I can't use the stadium to evolve with in that case because I think it has to be from grass Pokemon to a grass Pokemon.
Yeah, I just
Um,
think. Oh, let me see real quick.
Whether you check
Uh,
Cottonee or
yeah, sorry, this is an idea. I think we can't do it because it rotated, unfortunately. But I was thinking about.
what's that?
So you're saying there's a psychic Cottony, and then it evolves into the grass Whimsicott, right?
Yeah,
And here I'm talking
right.
about this single prize here. But then you could theoretically, but you can't do this because the other card rotated, which is Espathra EX. Espathra EX
Yeah.
is a grass stage 1. Wait, not heals a grass. Yeah, heals from a grass Pokemon. So, and then you could use telepathic psychic energy because the basics are both psychic, and then the evolutions are both grass. So, like, kind of works. It's really funny, but not very good. But it is funny. At
Yeah.
first, I was thinking about Vespiquen EX, but that's I don't even know if that card's in standard. I'm not gonna lie. I remember this is one of the cards I've like legitimately forgotten existed. I was like talking about in a video. I was like, yeah, there's no Vespiquen EX, and there is. Anyways, it's not in standard. That's like the other way around, which is not what you want. Unfortunately, you can't do that, but it is kind of funny. Um, and when you said the psychic basic, I was like thinking about telepathic psychic energy. Certainly not
Right.
what you want here, though.
No, and then the deck to make it work, I'd put in bug catching set because that's really good. Threw in some Badoos because there's a couple questions.
Sorry. Well, I feel like if you're playing blood catching, so you should play the grass basic.
Yeah, yeah, might be right. You might be right. I mean, I haven't tried the deck. I gotta try. I'll try it out later. At that point, but it gets your energy too. But you're right. It probably helps with the consistency with there. And then I'm playing a Teal Mask Ogerpon,
Okay.
and that also, which does take advantage of the first attack, right? If you accelerate three more energies to TMS Ogerpon, it's a way to build that up. So it does give some value with that, and then slapped in some energy switches in well, just so I could potentially have that big Teal Mask Ogerpon attack, or I do face Pheasantipity, which I could get that going too, I guess.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it like I feel like at that point, Wonder Con is just like a generic attack that isn't super good. You know, it doesn't really have synergy with Ogerpon, right? As far as I'm aware.
No, I think look with my thought is I'd rather attack for one energy on a stage one consistently. I think I do that more than three energies on a basic, right? So I think it's like a Whimsicott EX is the second attack is what I'm thinking of, but obviously TLS Gogurpon does get you going a little bit of engine, and I have that second attacking option, which is good if my opponent really avoids items in their hand, which is not that easy to people are going to have a decent amount of items, but maybe what? I'm gonna do like 200 an attack maybe with Whimsicott, which unfortunately is not going to be enough.
And also, I mean, specifically with the items, obviously it's a type of trainer here. Supporters, they can't thin items. They probably can. I mean, you
No,
never know, right? They might be.
this is trainer.
Yeah. But with items, which are going to be the bulk of their trainers, or the bulk of their trainers in
Yeah.
general, you can thin them, or they can thin them. And so if they're actually particularly scared about it, well, I suppose if they take a big knockout, they can't. I guess I will mention as well one interesting, I guess, synergy thing with this. I give you prizes, gives more cards in your opponent's hand. I mentioned that with intentionally giving you, or like, knock yourself out with like Dustor
Yeah.
or something. But then here you also have, or with Mega Frost specifically, I mean, it's a mega, right? So if a mega is knocked out, your opponent gets 3 cards. So if you're playing these bigger decks, then you're going to be potentially doing more damage, which is an interesting idea there as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you quickly the deck building question, because in certain questions for decks quickly are what's the supporter count, which I want to ask you about is do I include Pheasant Deputy EX? Do I include Meowth EX these days? And do I include Badoo? Those are some of the basic decisions because those three Pokemon are possible, if not definite includes in most decks. But so supporters for this deck, I've got 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 13 supporters. So how is that for running? I know
So what
you like.
are these supporters?
I have 4 lilies
Yeah,
because that's
of course.
good. I have 3 boss. I have 2 judge. I have 3 Brock scouting because I don't get to play Dawn on this deck because I have no stage 2, so Brock scouting was better. And I put in 1 Kieran just to give a little switch or buffing of things.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how your Kieran is in it, but
Yeah.
um, whatever. And I think did you say you just kind of threw this together beforehand? You haven't played this, right? Or have
I
you?
have not played it yet.
Okay.
No.
But yeah, I like higher support accounts. I generally like true draw supporters, supposed to search supporters, and I like to play search items. Obviously you have bug catching set as well, which is a really nice, pretty powerful though not super consistent item in the deck.
Hmm.
Which in some ways kind of allows you to not play as many supporters. Um, Ultimately, I feel like something like Brox is kind of good. I've been playing, as I said, I've been playing Explorer's Guidance, but in a deck like this, I don't know. I really, in general, with supporters, it's definitely a difficult question. As you're saying, these are all interesting questions. I guess I will
Hmm.
mention Badoo in a deck. Like Badoo's kind of fine in most things. It can be a liability, but there's different things to think about with it. But also with bug catching set, it's easier to find as well by a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's cool. I have not been playing much Meowth, and I've been playing actually not that much Pheasant EX either. There was some Pheasant I played almost no Meowth. I think we've talked about this in the past on other
Yeah.
podcasts, and you've been playing a lot more Meowth than me. So yeah,
Yeah, and when I started to build some decks for just thinking about these cards and then sat down to build some decks quickly, I was putting in Pheasantipity more often than Meowth. In this deck, I also put in 3 Pokegear 3.0, which does help, with dealing with a few less supporters because I have an item to get me a supporter with a little bit of flexibility. So, that's I kind of lean towards a little bit less supporters and more Pokegear 3.0s. You probably don't like to put Pokegear in your decks, though.
yeah. I think Pokegear is. I played it a little more. I've been, I play it sometimes. I used to never play it. But my issue with the card, or I don't know if this is like my issue, but like an interesting thing is, Pokegear in some ways acts as a supporter, right? Except it
Yeah.
has more utility there. It's going to have more options. Except obviously, the less supporters you have, the less likely you are to hit a supporter of a Pokegear. So
Right.
it's definitely interesting. You'll sometimes see decks that run low support counts with high Pokegears, and it's like definitely, I don't know, it can definitely be pretty difficult, I would say, to find that right balance there. And I've also,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about the worse supporter, um, weaker supporter lineups in standard right now. So it's definitely interesting, and I have definitely seen decks playing more Pokegears because you're looking at Lilies and also Boss as just like these super important backbone cards in the game.
Yeah. Okay. So Whimsicott X, which is I think is, it's interesting-ish. It's on the weak side. It's HP. I was thinking 230 was good, solid, but I was thinking of it as a basic, right?
Yeah.
230 for a basic is good, but that means as a stage 1, it's really awful.
Yeah, yeah. But then we got, I guess I'll move on to my second card here. This one, I guess I'll just Yeah, I'll talk about probably one of my favorite Pokemon in the game. This one I haven't actually played it a little bit, but this one I did play for a while. And this is Cinderace. Cinderace is a Pokemon which is from the Mega Evolution expansion here, that like base set for that. And it has the attack explosive, or sorry, it has the ability explosiveness, which says that you can put it as your starting Pokemon when you're setting up for the game in the after spot. I will say there was also the card
Right.
Snorlax Doll. Snorlax Doll you could only put in the or you could also put in on the bench, which is like interesting, I guess. Anyways, so we have this ability here letting you start it. It is of course normally going to be a stage 2, but with the ability it functions like a basic. And then your attack here is going to be Turbo Flare. Turbo Flare does is it says that you do 50 for one colorless, and then you search your deck for up to 3 basic energies and attach to your bench Pokemon any way you like. I will mention this functions kind of similarly to TM Turbo Energize, which did
Right.
rotate. Regarding that, Turbo Energize, this could be a replacement, like not really, but I will mention there's the replacement of the Mega Auto EX, which I've found to be fine if you are looking for a replacement for that. So if you are, okay. But anyways, Cinderace is interesting. So how much do you know about how like what I played with it?
Not much at all. So
Okay.
yeah. So it probably was not a control deck, was it?
No, no,
Or
no.
was it?
So
Okay.
I played the Cinderace Tortuga deck. Well, I call it Cinderace Tortuga. It plays. I mean, it does play Cinderace and Tortuga, and I guess those are the two fours in the deck. But this does some interesting things. It's a really interesting card. When you look at a card, you kind of need to break down what it actually does, right? And with this
Yeah.
card, what it does is it's weird. It like kind of functions like a basic. Obviously, playing this card like just like as a regular stage 2, which you could do, is going to be bad, right? Presumably not what you want to do there. Then you look at it as a basic, it's like super good, right? Like legitimately a very good card. I play this card against people and they're like, wait, that does that? That's like really good. Um, yeah, it like is if you treat it as a basic, it's super good. But then you need to play in order you to start it, right? So you need to play less
Yeah.
basics in your deck, um, which is kind of sketchy, obviously. And the idea is that like you'll mulligan until you get a quote basic or this, and then you'll just start this more. But then with that, you also I think the attack generally wants to work with big basics. So you kind of play a big basic deck,
Yeah.
but you can't play a lot of basics. And then you're not playing evolution, so it's your big basic deck. So that's super clunky there. And then it also theoretically lets you choose mulligans as well. So if this is the only quote unquote basic in your hand, you can choose to start it, or you can choose not to start it. You can choose to start it because like it says you can start it, and then you can choose not to start it
Right.
because you don't have any basics in your hand, right? So ultimately, it's really interesting what it does there. It's not super I don't know exactly how much does that matter. I don't know, but it's really unique, right? And then as I said, I mentioned I paired it with Tortuga, which is a fossil evolution there. And the way that works is it's a card that the basic you can't start, so it kind of lets you actually. I mean, do the thing you want to do with getting the fossil into play a little easier, but again, it's super weird. But ultimately really interesting. I remember you also had a fossil card that you mentioned. Tortuga is definitely a card I'm excited to play with some in the future. There's a new fossil support card. Which I know you're a fan of fossils. Actually, no, I don't think you're actually a fan of fossils, even though you're named after them. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a some really weird things you can do there.
Yeah. So okay. So I was first when you said it here, I was thinking, okay, if I'm playing this, I'm playing it with the Cinderace EX as well, right? So I have value out of this Cinderace here. Um, with something that because I have the pre-evolutions, but I guess I'm not playing the pre-evolutions with what you're saying, and then it's probably better because I'm not thrilled with this you going Cinderace EX. So having obviously a bunch of basics, trying to find the balance of basics is going to be very tricky. Well, first, look, if this was a basic Pokemon, it's very good. 50 damage and accelerate 3 energies. You go second, super nice. Obviously, as a stage 2, 50 and 3 energy explosion is not good if you're trying to evolve to it, because at that point, your second or third turn, you can't afford to use this attack at that point. So you're trying to get it in play turn 1. How you build your deck, like you said, is tricky. And then you're controlling mulligans, which is interesting. And so I guess the question becomes, it's obviously, if it's a big basic, it's not which Pokemon are in hand. So if you have any of those Pokemon in hand, you have to start one. But it's really, is there a trainer or an energy that you need in your hand to get going? So maybe it's around, you have a deck where the A spec super critical to set up on like a deck with, say, Secret Box, and you're trying to guaranteeing Secret Box turn 1, or there's some supporter that you've got to play turn 1 to make it going, and therefore Cinderace helps you guarantee that you're going to get that one card turn 1. The question is, what would that card be? Like I said, maybe an A spec, maybe some supporter, but I'm not sure what that supporter would be. Like Secret Box is probably the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. Like it has these weird set of conditions that it's looking to you're looking to meet. It's definitely, in the game, one of my favorite cards for that reason. But
Yeah.
also obviously it's super clunky there. Controlling the mulligans is cool as well. It's really cool, right? I feel like that's really
Yeah.
unique. There are other cards like it as well. There was, I said, Snorlax Stall. Snorlax Stall essentially only, I would say, controlled mulligans. It technically did some stuff, but it's really bad. I definitely have played Cinderace and Snorlax Stall together with some like combo stuff. It's pretty bad. But yeah, overall, I would say that it's a really funny idea. And the attack is good for a basic, but if you're like jumping through all these hoops and making your deck a lot worse, then it's not that good. It has seen some play, not like a lot, but like a little bit. Apparently with Archaludon, I definitely feel like it's weird with Archaludon, because Archaludon already like accelerates, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's Yeah, because I've been playing some Archaludon. Obviously, it accelerates. Now they have to be the discard pile, so I guess it gets you those energies in play before they're in the discard pile. But that,
Like
it's
Hole Digging
simple
Shovel.
enough. Exactly. We have you crack that with Hole Digging Shovel. So, honestly, I'd probably feel more consistent with Hole Digging Shovel than Cinderace in our Archaludon deck. But not that that's saying much. But Archaludon just works energy wise on its own. So that's an odd mixture there. I would think it is something different, I like big basic decks, but it's a weird combination with Cinderace and big basics too. So what to do with it? It creates an interesting problem, and I'm not sure what the solution is though.
Yeah. Oh, also shout out to whoever the person was that I saw play. Um, what was the deck? It was like Halidon with Cinderace and Tortuga. They got like super obliterated, but because they didn't set up, I'm pretty sure is what happened. But it is definitely pretty um pretty interesting, I would say. Yeah. But what card do you want to go to?
Since you mentioned something that evolving from fossils, I'm going to throw out Archeops. Not the really good Archeops of old
Or
with
the other good
Lugia.
one. There are two.
Okay. But this one's not that good. It evolves from a fossil, which is always which makes it tougher to get in play, and it does 100 for 2. So that's not an attack that's at all worth any. It's not even worth a stage 2 that evolves from regular basic Pokemon, let alone a fossil here. But it's got the Ancient Wing ability. If once during a turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you can devolve one of your opponent's evolved Pokemon, putting the highest stage evolution card into their hand. So you don't obviously you can't get rid of the basic Pokemon that's sitting there, but you can get rid of any remove any evolution Pokemon active or bench. Obviously, evolution Pokemon are huge. If there's enough damage on the Pokemon, it gets knocked out, or it's a way to just help manipulate your damage numbers, which kind of fits in a bit with some other things I might talk about later on as well. But we have air balloons, so the retreat cost of 1. Assuming you get knocked out, which will happen a couple times in the course of the game, you promote Archeops. It becomes your pivot. Now we don't have Arven anymore, so getting air balloon consistently is tougher. And we also don't have what Town Store I think is rotated as well. While we have switching cards, burning switching cards is always a bit tricky. But as you get air balloon, it's still not impossible. And then you have this pivot, and you devolve your opponent. It can obviously help with knockouts with different things. There are different spread decks and things like that. And also, it stops them going from a stage one to a stage two as well. So it's disruptive in that sense. So it's just a very fun card that can set up for some fun options during the game.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool card, and we don't have TM Devolution either right now. So if you want to have
Right.
this, devolving effect, it have to be through this, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's probably some other devolution effect. Isn't there a Bath Threat? Um,
Is that? Let's
maybe.
see.
Load it. Yes, there's an Espathra that
Yes.
devolves. Um,
Yep.
Not good, but it exists. Yeah. Um, and so it's definitely interesting to see like a devolving card. Devolving is, allows you to do some cool things, as you're kind of saying. Obviously, it's cool. Um, it is a stage two fossil. So how much
Yeah.
have you actually played with fossils? I've played some with fossils. As I said, I played with Tortuga, but that's like a stage one. Tortuga feels fine enough. I wouldn't say it feels amazing, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
haven't played with fossils in a bit, just because they're awkward, for sure. So yeah, but yeah, the new card coming, support trainer card coming out will make fossils a little more viable. So get to mess around with them at that point. So and obviously fossil at stage two fossil is even tougher. So getting it set up, you're not going to even reliably get it set up on turn three, right? You're definitely not going to get reliably set up on turn two. I mean, by turn three is still probably going to be 50% of the time, I would think, unless you're all in on getting this set up, in which case you're not getting whatever else you got to get set up, and which this it doesn't win the game in and of itself. So because you need some attackers getting going. I guess you could just hope to hide behind Badu for a bunch of turns and buy some time, which I imagine that's part of what it is. Or it goes into spread deck. I'm thinking, I still, big Uxie fan, so you could just chuck Uxie in your deck, ping away with Uxie a few turns, devolve, and take a prize that way.
yeah. Speaking of, I guess I will mention the card here, which I kind of want to talk about as well. Someone Tortuga. Tortuga is just like a pretty decent Pokemon, doing damage based on items in your opponent's discard pile. But anyway, so Fossil Excavation Site is the new stadium. What it does is it says that you'd search your deck for two train cards with antique in their name, which will be the fossils, and then you put them
Yeah.
onto your bench and shuffle your deck. And yeah, this is interesting because you can't search the fossils. So, do you how good do you think this will make fossils? And like, do you think that this card is really good, or do you think it's just like all right or
I
bad? I
mean,
guess you could say it's bad.
first, you actually most decks can search fossil cards these days because we have Team Rocket's Petrol that's very common.
Yeah.
Now nobody's using it to search fossils. Maybe if we crack the secret code to the game by coming up with that concept there. But no, but the new support, yeah, it's much better to get with ancient. What was the new card? Search with antique, whatever it does.
Yeah, searches fossil excavation site from it's gonna be pitch black, searching for
Okay.
two trainers with antique in their name, and put them
Okay.
onto your bench. Let me just check that there's no other cards because it does put them onto your bench. So theoretically, if there's another card with antique in its name, you could just put it onto your bench, even if it's not like a fossil. And I don't know what happened, but yeah. Anyways, so definitely like cool. It's kind of like Pokemon Research Lab, I believe, is the name of the card, which is it's just pretty similar, and definitely an interesting one. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty decent there.
Yeah, no, I mean 30 damage for each item card. Obviously, I had the Whimsicott per trainer card, so that does more, but obviously that was that's an EX, so giving up two prizes. That the multiple's 50 on the Whimsicott. So but this is a single prize, so that's a big difference. Obviously, I mean, I feel like Whimsicott probably is more consistent than Tortuga, which is going to work a little better, which isn't saying much, unfortunately. So,
Sorry, why do you
you
think
know,
it's more?
well, just
Um,
you're going to get it set up more because it's
yeah,
evolves from a Pokemon, right?
yeah,
That's the big difference. After that, though, the multiplier's bigger, so I don't know damage wise. They're probably pretty close. I'm guessing. Um,
you know what you're getting into with Tortuga. Um,
oh, yeah, or to the discard pile.
yeah, so
Yeah, sorry.
discard.
So
And it kind of discourages them from playing items, as opposed to I guess it's interesting
yeah,
how like Whimsicott encourages them to play more cards. In some sense,
right.
certainly discouraging your opponent to play cards is going to be, I guess, better than encouraging them to play them. But it's definitely an interesting like dynamic there.
Yeah, I mean, because if you keep them from playing cards, then if they're not doing what they need on their turn, it gives you a chance to win. Obviously, right? Ideally, we'd get this in a combo deck, right? You want to get them either way. If they keep the trainers in hand, I smack them with Whimsicott. If they thin things out, then I smack them with a Tortuga. So that's the golden deck that's going to break the game there, right?
Yeah.
It's just never going to set up.
I
I
mean, it's just
understand.
not that good. Like the payoff isn't that good either. Um,
No,
so
no. I mean, so yeah, Tortuga's interesting. The question is there going to be other things that evolve from fossils that are going to be good enough to make this work? Because you're not gonna Tortuga in and of itself is just not going to set up consistently enough and do enough. And it's some water type deck that has this off to the side, maybe, but you probably want something that's you taking advantage of the fossil situation.
yeah, that definitely seems like it could be like good. I don't know. I'm also wondering about like a fossil toolbox stack. With that, realistically, I think you want to be playing like stage ones. Most of them are not stage ones, so it feels
Yeah.
kind of awkward there. Well, I mean, there are stage ones for all of them, but like Tortuga's the only stage one that's actually like particularly good.
Right, right. I mean, right. Most of the stage ones are just there to get to the stage two. So, which yeah, and trying to get to a stage two from a fossil like with Archeops is a big ask. So, um, yeah. I mean, Tortugas again, it's kind of fun. It's not probably going to be great, unfortunately. But you'll get when the new card comes out, you're going to get to revisit this. So that's the nice thing there.
Yeah, and I do think Tortuga and Archeops are the two best fossil evolutions. I'm trying to think through what the other ones are. Um, the new Bastiodon is okay, I guess. It's not even out yet. And yeah, I think that's about it. So ultimately, I don't know. There's definitely a they're weird cards, right? They're weird cards. They're Pokemon that
Yeah.
aren't Pokemon, which is kind but I guess I talk about Tortuga as one of my cards. So what do you want to talk about next?
I'm going to talk about one of more fun cards in the game here, and that's Yveltal EX. So it's a basic EX, so that's good. You get it in play, 210 HP, kind of what you expect. Weak to lightning, that's not a bad weakness to have right now, I wouldn't think. And it's got two attacks. Both are darkness, colorless. The energy cost is awkward. I will say that's one of the downsides. The one Dark Strike does 210 for the three energies. You can't use that attack next turn. That's fine. But what's fun here is it's got Soul Destroyer, and if you win the game with this, you may just destroy your opponent's soul in the process. You knock out each of your opponent's Pokemon that has 50 HP or less remaining. So just super super fun there, right? To pull that off. So obviously the question is you're doing a bunch of work to set it up. So that's the tricky part here because we've got to get three energies on this. So it's at least 2 turns to get this powered up. We have to be getting damage counters on the board as well in the meantime, which generally means we're going to take energies there. Unless you're just hitting with Badoo every turn for 10 for like couple dozen turns with using some bosses to get things set around, which that's not very likely. So you've got to have this with some spread. I think as I was looking at it, Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX seems like the way to go to me, but you could go with like an Uxie spread type deck. Could go with maybe a Frostlass Monkey Dory, get damage spread around there as well. But you're doing a bunch of turns setting up and then hoping fingers crossed that Yveltal EX comes through at the end, which you're probably going to lose most of the time, but when you win, it's going to be super fun.
Yeah. This is definitely a cool card. I don't know if it's a um I mean I was saying I don't know if it's, it's not a good card. I don't know exactly like how viable this card is. It definitely feels like there's almost something there in my opinion. I kind of like to compare this card to Roaring Mooniacs. It's obviously not that similar. I don't know. It's got like a generically okay attack, and then it's also got a an attack that does some really cool, fun, splashy stuff. Obviously, the stuff being done here is going to be just generally less impressive. I mean, Soul Destroyer can be, as you're saying, destroy opponent's soul uh, if you pull it off, because it's really hard to pull off. So, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a really funny card. You mentioned like Marnies, and then presumably with that, you're going to be looking at like Frostlass and Wicked stuff, which is good. Again, like quite a bit of stuff there. But interesting, this like Duskor Dusclops. I mean, it's kind of weird because it knocks out the Pokemon that are already low, right? So also with
Right.
something like Mist Energy that would counter, which is you know, that's
Yeah.
not gonna be super amazing for you either.
Yeah, but I'm not going to worry about missed energy. That's not the big thing. Also, this deck would love to have the Archeops in it, right? Because now I can devolve one, so I can get
Oh
one
yeah.
boom, get one down there. But again, that's even more pieces to try and make work. But the deck I put together was a Marnie's Grimmsnarl with Monkey Dory. It didn't have Frostlass just because of deck space with things in it. It got some Badoo. You kind of probably have to Badoo slow things down within that. I would say because the one thing is like when I was Marnie's Grimmsnarl's decks mostly they play Yveltal but the single prize Yveltal, so I'm like, hey, you actually get, if when you pull it off, you actually get more value out of this EX Yveltal, right? And then you play some energy switch because you got to get it powered up quickly. You're accelerating the energy with Marnie's Grimmsnarl. The problem is so that means you don't need to attach per turn for your attacker, so you do have the opportunity to power it up on the bench or pull off that big turn where you attach one from hand and you do double energy switch is another option in it if everything aligns for you. But just kind of, Marnie's a Monkey Dory, you can kind of you're in games with that anyway. And then you have this threat of a Yveltal as a way to close things out. That's kind of how I see it. And then when you pull it off, it's a lot of fun. I guess the question would be when you win games that way, you probably would have just won the game without the Yveltal as well. But it wouldn't have been as fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I was to say like your opponent already needs to be pretty close to for this to actually like do something. Right? Pretty close to lose or to like they got to be
Well,
pretty low.
Well, they need low HP on the Pokemon, but you don't have to take any prizes yet. Like with Marty's Grimmsnarl, you're doing 180, so you're not like ever knocking out the active Pokemon. You're putting some damage counters on the bench. You're moving some damage around with Monkey Dory. So so you have a few turns to kind of get the numbers set up. So especially because like you hit with Marty's Grimmsnarl and you get them, that you hit them again, you take the prize, but your opponent probably can retreat to the bench. If it's a basic EX, then you'll knock it out when you hit with your Yveltal EX right after the one Miner's Grimmsnarl. So you have a few turns. You get to knock out two EXs and a couple single prize Pokemon that you set up with the Monkey Dories, and away we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy peasy.
Easy. It's free damage. As people like say, Monkey Dory, it's free damage. No cost at all. It's like just it's free. Yeah. Um, yeah. No, your ultimately is really fun though. Definitely I kind of want to mess with it. It's we're kind of talking about. It's kind of awkward. You look at like Toxtricity and stuff as
Yeah.
well, and you can like kind of do some wacky stuff. But definitely a little wacky there, and not a good kind of wacky. I mean, like pulling it off, I guess, is pretty cool. Um, Other than that, though, it's just kind of bad, unfortunately. Then we got my next card here. This one is I know, two. I'll go with I think I will probably get to both of these, and I won't get through any more of mine. But we'll go look at
Okay.
Alomomola next. This one is a basic here from Black Bull. It has the ability Gentle Fin. Once your turn, if this is in the active, then you can use this ability to put a basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less from your skill pile onto your bench. Um, Ultimately, I don't know, it's kind of interesting just being recovery tool. In some ways, if you are pairing this with some form of like heavy discard, it can be like I don't know, almost a search tool. That's like not really what it is, but it's interesting. You can pair with Air Balloon as well. You mentioned that with the Archeops.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just kind of a cool card. I kind of seen played a little, but certainly not a lot.
Yeah, it could be good. It probably has its most value, I think, in EX evolution type decks, where if your EX gets knocked out in particular, then you say like Dragapult, your Dragapult gets knocked out, then you promote the Mola, however one says that there, to the active. You get your basic onto the bench, and then you retreat. Hopefully Air Balloon, because you don't want to have to use your attachment. You don't have to attach energy probably in a deck like that. That's probably where I think it's going. In something like that. Obviously, if you're playing a deck with like Lunatone Soul Rock, no, they're higher in HP, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't work there. So yeah, it's pre-evolutions. Obviously, you can always get back your Badoo as well if you really want to stream Badoos, and just really make your opponent miserable that way. Biggest question I have, besides obviously the limitations with it, is we have Night Stretcher in the game, and Night Stretcher is just a better card, right? And I'd rather probably have multiple Night Stretchers in my deck than have this Pokemon, right? That's where the value starts to get questionable.
Yeah, I will say if you're playing multiple Night Stretchers, that is going to be multiple cards there. Versus just one Alomola. Really how much
Yeah.
value you're getting off of one. Um, I don't know. Maybe hopefully some value. It's obviously going to be a lot more narrow there, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be tricky. And again, like I mentioned before, I think with switching, like with the Archeops, you don't want to have to use a switching card. I've even played Surfer sometimes in decks just to get where I need a little extra switching and maybe draw a few cards with it. So I'm not playing a lot of switch in decks these days, which I don't think, I think switch counts are down in general, partly because we have Air Balloon. But you don't always get it, but it's
Yeah.
an interesting card. It's going to be limited for the decks that want it, so that's going to be the question. It's like I said, I think it's evolution decks where you already have your evolution line working, being built up for that turn, but you're getting it prepared for the turn after the one you're in the middle of, right? That's where it kind of has value.
Yeah, it's interesting there, I guess. Yeah, obviously, like that situation is a little, situational. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting. Honestly, the thing that you said that sounds maybe the best to me is just the streaming videos, which is something. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't do that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, ultimately, it's kind of a cool card. But what's your next card here?
Let's talk Blissey EX here. Because which has been, obviously, it's been around a while. It's a the attack's okay. It does 180, draws till cards in hand, so that's not bad there. It's 3 energy. That's the downside to it. But the big thing is it got the happy switch ability. Once during a turn, you can move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another. So it's gotten some flexibility. I've played with it in the past. I haven't messed with it in a while, and I haven't really seen anyone using it or talking about it in a while. Maybe you have. And I have these old deck lists that I need to kind of revisit. I've had two different styles. One, I have a bunch of Blissey wall decks, where I have different things like my Lodic or Farigiraf, Cornerstone, Mask Ogerpon, things like that, which you can still roll with, but that wasn't great. And then the other way I built it is with a bunch of with Blissey and Centiskorch, which
Yeah.
Mask against Centiskorch is not the best Pokemon in the game, but it does 130 for one. And it does 30 each of your bench Pokemon, and so therefore I put a bunch of Monkey in, and just the idea is you just move the energies around, you damage your bench, and just move damage over nice and consistently. Although it doesn't always set up, but those were kind of the ways I was using Blissey in the past. I'm sure there's got to be some better way to use Blissey now, though. I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, Blissey EX does. It's definitely one of these cards where we were like kind of talking about these a lot earlier with like what exactly card does. Blissey EX has a bunch of different things. Obviously, you look at it. It's some of its bad stuff is it's. I mean, specifically for a treat, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's kind of scary there. It has 300 HP though. That's pretty good. It also has this ability Happy Switch, which is a move. It's an energy switch, right? Every turn you can
Yep.
use energy switch, and yeah, that is nice. It's good if you want to use energy switch a lot, but like not all in one turn, right? And obviously, you talked about like Monkey Dory there, and it's really nice there. But you can also use it with Teal Master Upon EX. That's like another idea. I've seen that some,
Mm.
which is interesting, certainly just for allowing you to set up. And then also you have Return here, which draws you until you have 6 cards in hand and also does 180. The damage is okay, looking at like 2-shot range there with different things. And then you look at the draw until you have 6, and it, kind of keeps you going in the mid game. It's like kind of sort of a bit of an engine. Obviously not like the best, but I've just seen this paired with Ogerpon if you're just playing like a straighter Blissey list. But a lot of it's with walls. I'm kind of looking through, and then there's some Set Scorch stuff as well. It's a pretty like well-rounded, no pun intended, Pokemon there that also does like it doesn't, it's well-rounded, but doesn't have any like particular amazing strengths. It's not super fast. I say it's slow.
Right.
It is a if you look at like what if it's a faster or slower Pokemon, it's a slower Pokemon. That's why it kind of works with stuff like Monkey Dory there. But it's definitely interesting. It can honestly like this deck can crush Dragapult if you got like a couple of Blissies and like a bunch of Monkey Dories. You can just like heal off like most of their damage, and that can be really nasty for them to deal with. So definitely an interesting card. I think a very interesting card and a decent card as well. Probably one of the best cards we talk about in this video, if not the best. I'm trying to think of the other ones. I imagine there's something a little bit better, but it's definitely a pretty solid card.
Yeah, I mean, with its HP, it's a solid number, hard to one shot. And that, but the ability is nice. The question is very potentially very good. That it becomes what can we do with the ability? It's certainly a card to keep in mind because as we have it for what is it? One more year, is it? It's an age regulation mark.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, something may come out over the course of the year that really kicks Blissey's value up as well. So, it's again, I think it's kind of fun to play with Blissey. It just gives you some different options, some different ways to do things that you can't do in some typical decks.
Yeah, it's really cool being able to, I don't know, just do the different, like moving energy around is fun, especially if you do it regularly. We
Yeah.
can lead to some really big, kind of out of nowhere plays. And then just being like, just a solid stats attack. I mean, you like, you mentioned Blissey V. Blissey V, it's not
Yeah.
exactly a solid stats attacker. There's stuff like NTV as well. The different cards you played that were these, just like decent basic attackers. This isn't a basic here, it's a stage 1. But I'd say in some ways it plays kind of like those. It's a little bigger HP wise and has that obviously that ability, but it's definitely a pretty simple Pokemon without the ability, and then the ability adds like a big layer to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're vanilla stats, ignoring the ability, but they're better than average for vanilla stats, right? Honestly, a vanilla Pokemon would be slightly less HP, does 180 for 3 without drawing to 6. So it's certainly in the right. I mean, because there's a lot. I mean, just most Pokemon are just garbage,
Yeah.
unfortunately, right? So it's in the without the ability, this Pokemon's in the borderline viable category anyway, I would say.
I don't know if I'd say
Um,
viable, like better than
yeah,
average.
that's true. Even with the ability, it's probably not even viable now. So you're right. I was overselling it, but it's not a bad Pokemon. It does give some interest. It's more it's the like with the Yveltal EX, it's fun, but pulling that off is super inconsistent. With Blissey EX, it will work. You might not win your games, but at least you're gonna be in the game.
Yeah, yeah, it's a cool card, and pretty, pretty like decent. Can kind of come back and stuff with its high HP and stuff. Then we
Yeah.
got my last card here, I think, which is going to be Mandibuzz from White Flare. This card is a card that I really caught my attention. I played with it a little. I play with it more, I think. Probably in Control, but you could definitely play it in like Spread or something. And what it says, once during your turn, you may use this ability. You have your opponent reveal their hand, and then you put a basic with 70 HP or less from it onto their bench. You can only use this ability if their bench is not full. That is important, but it
Yep.
allows you to, look in there and grab something to trap, to snipe, and you get to see it. So their hand. So ultimately, all three of those things are
Right.
nice. And yeah, I mean it's a pretty cool Pokemon. I don't know what you have to say on top of what I said there, but yeah, definitely interesting.
Yeah, no, this one I caught my eye too when I was kind of prepping for this. It probably, I'm guessing when you played it in the past, it was in control decks because that was more of a thing. Certainly, back in those glorious Block Snorlax days, the days we all dreamed the Pokemon would return to a card like this. Although I don't know if they were ever
Yeah,
together,
no,
but
they were not. That would be
all right,
pretty
very good.
nasty there, probably.
That that's good. I mean, imagine if you're using it today, ooh, spread's a bigger thing, and certainly like with Badoos and such in decks. You can just slap a Badoo back onto the bench. You could Monkey Dory it out of the game again and just snag some prizes pretty cheaply there, both for like I said, Monkey Dory and also the spreads. Spread, there's different spread attacks in the game are definitely around today. So it starts to have value. Again, we've said it before. We have air balloons, so you can cover the retreat cost on it. So um,
Wait,
Oh no, it
this? Yeah,
doesn't have
this
to
one
be the
does not
active. I
integrate
take
active,
it
which
back.
is
So that's
nice.
even better. I mean, the attack's not good, but that's okay. But if you have to, you can attack with it too. If your opponent's really doing a stall tactic because it's colorless energy, that's always nice having that out as well. But yeah, potentially, yeah, not a bad ability that I can see you could get value from.
Yeah, and you could get value with it. Even honestly, like Dragapult, I didn't try that. Ship a little of that. Taking just like an interesting card and pop into I don't know if like a boring deck, but very common deck certainly.
Yeah.
But I mean, just be able to go after this, like when you mentioned Badoo. I mean, even any Pokemon with 70 HP or less is people are going to be playing those generally for Bye Bye Poffin.
Yep.
And people like to leave bench space open. People will probably have some cards like this in their hand, not always, but definitely
Hmm.
sometimes. And in those situations, yeah, this is going to be some a Pokemon you can chase down relatively easily. If you're looking at 60 HP, that's one attack from Dragapult. With 70 there, it will be a little more, but definitely I think an interesting card. Also, like thematic of looking for prey, either
Yeah.
to trap, but obviously, or to knock out. And you
Yeah.
love.
No. Oh yeah, you get to see their hands, which is all as you said before. It's just good hand knowledge is always good. Obviously, it's key for control games decks, but it's good for any game. So right, and it helps out higher skill players more as well, so that type of thing. So it's yeah, not a bad card at all. So yeah, that's a good ad. I like that.
Yeah. But then what's your last card we're looking at today?
All right, so This is the best ability in the game here, which I mentioned before. This is a basic Pokemon, and once during your turn, you can attach an energy from your hand to your active Pokemon. And if you have multiple
Oh,
of this Pokemon in play, it stacks. So it's as good as it gets. There's only one slight caveat to it, in that it has to be a Larry's Pokemon.
yes.
But but no, that's not a problem, right? But look, if it wasn't Larry's Pokemon are terrible. But
Yeah.
the ability is insanely great.
Yeah, this is a card that caught my attention. As you're saying, it's any energy, including special energy. I can accelerate those
Yep.
there, which is really interesting. Like Stone Sparse EX is the card to pair with this, where you like do damage based on the energy, or you might flip. I think you flip coins and like do damage based on flip coins
Right.
based on energy, do damage based on the heads. Um, it can only accelerate to the active if it's on the bench, so it cannot accelerate to itself. My idea was to like play this and then
Mm.
move the energy or something, or like that. Um, in like maybe a form of like expanded or something. I remember I had some idea, um, like what are the best special energies in the game? And I was like, oh yeah, the special energy is 2 energy, and it like is multiple types. And that's Team Rock's energy. You obviously can't do that. So
No.
you transform like you wouldn't be able to. It doesn't work. But yeah, it's interesting being able to accelerate these energies. I don't know if it's obviously it's not very good. I think all the Larry's Pokemon are colorless as well. I'm thinking of like telepathic psych energy. Yeah, no, that's not gonna work too well there. Um, but it allows you to accelerate. Like you would accelerate a bunch of prism energies, and then a way to like swap the Pokemon? Not really. I don't know. It's so. Wait, so do you have any ideas for this other than the Lairs
Well,
Kamala? Or sorry, not Lairs Kamala.
yeah,
Other
I mean,
than Lairs.
there's Dunsparce, which is how I built the deck. And then that does include then for ignition energy, so you can get those crazy big turns. Lightning energy because we have the. Do we still have the stadium? I'm trying to look. It's up here.
Yeah,
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 we have the
Levincia. Yeah.
Lavinkia. Now, one thing that hurts this deck and a lot of decks is the loss of Earthen Vessel, right? Yes, it does special energy, but with Earthen Vessel, you could get a bunch of basic energies into your hands easily and make it happen much more consistently. So that loss hurts.
Here's Fire Root.
Um,
Don't do that.
so, yeah, so we have these other evolution Pokemon in Larry's, but they're not very good. The Bravery. I mean, you can trap them. It does 50. Yeah, it's not any good. The Staraptor does 60, and it does more if it's burned or poisoned, but it's not helping you get that there. It can do what 250 on the. I guess that's kind of what it's built for, but it's a stage two. I don't love it. It does 150, and you discard two energies. And it does 50 to. I'm sorry, it does 50 to one of your opponent's benchmark. It does 200 in total. So that's not bad, but it's for the amount of effort it's going to take. It's not good enough either. So Larry's the Dunsparce. Flip some coins. Yeah, if we had Thornton still in format, right, then things would be more interesting, right? Because then you could switch. You could get energies on your Larrys. You could switch with some other basic Pokemon on the bench as long as it was a basic Larrys in the active. But yeah, I don't have any good uses for it right now. Especially because in the active, if it was on the bench, there's the water Pokemon to move from the bench to the active. I blanking the name of it right now.
The Dugong.
Yeah, which I considered, but then I realized no, that wasn't worth our discussion today. But again, you'd have to get the Pokemon from the active back to the bench to get some non-Larry's Pokemon in the active, and that's just too much working around, I would think. So the way it functions from the Larry's Kamala on the bench, something else in the active, and Larry's Pokemon being not very good, just makes this a really great ability that's essentially unusable.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the case with a lot of trainers Pokemon cards. There's some really good support pieces with really bad attackers. Pretty consistently there. You can see it with like Hops. See it with I almost said it with Lilies now. Lilies Pearl is an interesting card. That's seeing some more play. But anyways, you can look at like trying to think of other ones. Like Cynthia's. I guess Cynthia's attacks are okay. The support's definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And just in general, there's some really powerful support cards. And really weak Pokemon there. I'd say Lairs Kamala might be one of the biggest examples of that. Ultimately, I feel like this card is definitely it's interesting looking at it like in expanded, not necessarily good still, but like fun. I'll probably do some stuff with it in live expanded. There's also I guess a Azumarill EX which can move energy to it, but it's like psychic energy or no, is it basic? I don't remember. Azumarill EX. Oh no, it can move any energy to it, but it does 60 more for each psychic energy attached to it. So presumably you just want to move basic psychic there, or some energy of multiple, like multiple psychic energies, which would be like say reversal, but that doesn't then like counter energy and expanded would technically be that, but nothing in standard is going to do that. So or nothing in standard is going to do it for this. You upper would for stage shoots, but it's not. So definitely some interesting ideas, but I don't think they really work at all.
Now we do have the A-Spec scramble switch.
Oh yeah,
you could do it, but you can only do that once per game. So I don't know that. Yes, it works in standard, but it's you're not going to get enough value out of it. I can't imagine unless it has to set up a game-winning situation that you can semi-reliably pull off, and I don't think that exists, unfortunately.
Yeah, or some like huge swing. I'm thinking if there's any like Stellars. I mean, the Stellars just aren't very good attacks, right? Trying to think of any that are good. I mean, Pikachu X is like good, I guess, but like, just like Sparkling Crystal is your A spec, and then like, in extra like Crispin, as opposed to like pulling off this like crazy, like Wombo combo with a bunch of like energies and like random Pokemon. So, and then you can also do other stuff. Like ultimately, this card is Lotus Kamala. It's really cool, in my opinion. Definitely a card that caught my eye, but I was like, this card just this stuff isn't there for it, and I'm kind of bummed by that. But yeah,
Yeah, so it's disappointing. I mean, you can use what like Iron Leaves, right? And you can swing it in. There's maybe some other things like that, but but you don't need the Larry's package to pull off these type of
yeah,
things, really. So
yeah. Or you could
it
you could do layers, or you could do TMS or your Pontiacs, and then have more options, a better attacker, and draw. um, yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, it's just this funny thing. Like I said, the ability crazy good. The other every other Larry's Pokemon is just really bad. I mean, Larry's the Dunsparce is by far the best option. I built the deck. I played it pre-rotation. I think it's worse post-rotation now. I'll mess with it again, and it was just not good when I played with it. Guys, see, I tried,
yeah,
getting a deck to go, and it was almost impossible to get it actually to function well enough to get a win. So that's where it's at.
yeah. No, I also played it. It's pretty rough. If your opponent doesn't like if they kind of let you chill and set up, it can be fun and like it's a silly deck, but it's
Yeah.
not it's not good. Unfortunately there. But yeah, definitely some there are a lot of really cool cards, and we love to hear your thoughts in the comment section on this on our YouTube channels, on this episode, on 10 types or uncommon fossil, those YouTube channels there. And also make sure you like and subscribe, like the videos on our channels, and subscribe to our channels for some content, including but not limited to the podcast here. But you can listen to our podcast on podcasting platforms, and of course leave down any suggestions in the comments on YouTube. Again, leave comments on YouTube. I guess could leave comments on other platforms, but unfortunately we probably won't see them because of how stuff's set up. It's kind of janky. But we hope you all enjoyed, and as always, we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.